Big thanks to Amanda for recording this in both languages. And welcome everyone. My name is Mickey Davis. I am the program manager for the Community Food Access Program. And excited to have you all here today for what is really going to be a session where we are answering your questions about our outreach and technical assistance RFP, which is open now. So just to set the stage a little bit, the purpose of this RFP is to identify contractors who will help us promote and provide technical assistance for our community food access program. And our community food access program will include a grant program as well as a consortium. So we're looking for nonprofits and community organizations that can help us provide those services to eligible businesses who will be applying for those opportunities. So the goal of this community food access program is to increase access to and lower prices for healthy food in low income and underserved areas of the state by supporting small food retailers. So it's our hope that experienced nonprofits with connections and relationships in their community will utilize those partnerships or subcontract with other community organizations to effectively spread the word about these opportunities through the grant and consortium and community food access program. So at this time, we are open to taking questions about this RFP.
Hi, Mickey.
Hi.
I was just wondering if you could describe what the difference is between the grant part of the program and the consortium.
Sure. Yeah. So the grant program so all of this is outlined in House Bill 22-1380. And the grant program leverages ARPA dollars to support infrastructure costs, operating expenses, POS machines, and accounting support for small food retailers and small family farms, with the goal of expanding access to or lowering prices for healthy food. So thanks. So the legislation is here in the chat. And also outlined in the legislation is this outreach strategy, which this RFP is aiming to be essentially. Sorry, the consortium is another aspect of the community food access program. And similar to the grant, the goal of the consortium is also to expand access to and lower prices for healthy food in these underserved areas of the state. But the consortium is more of a network of grantees with a budget to do things like negotiate with distributors for better purchasing power, or provide subsidies to offset the costs of some distribution fees that small food retailers incur just by being small, right? It will also be an opportunity for these small businesses to have a collective voice and advocate for what sorts of resources they'll need in order to serve their communities healthy food in a better way. Kathy, I think you're on mute.
You on mute now, or can you hear me? Okay. All right, I dialed in, but for some reason it's making me do both. But I wanted to share my screen and show folks where you can find the RFP. I don't really know how folks found the registration, but on my end, there's a different path to get to that information, and probably a few folks have gotten to this info site through CDA's regular website. So I want to show you the other way around by sharing my screen where you can find the RFP and also the RFP documents. Just a second. Share my screen. All right. Can everyone see this okay? The font small. Okay. So this is what we call Colorado VSS. We're going to have all of our interested authors or participants come to this site. It's all public, anyone can access it. So you'll need to click public access here. It'll pop up a new screen. And this system's a little tricky. So my trick is to, instead of putting the entire name, put the number of the solicitation in there with asterisks. Remember the number really quick, 0342. And I will follow up with instructions for folks on how to find it. It's pretty simple. Once you do the asterisk, it'll come up as the first search, and that is my name, so I'm the procurement agent for this, and all communications has to be directed through me for the solicitation. But I will coordinate questions with our SMEs as well, like Nikki and Amanda. So to go into the actual solicitation, you click on details. But if you want to just do a quick summary, just if there's something you're interested in, this is what you hover over as the summary. But the details is what you really need to go into. And attachments is where it has all the documents we are providing to all participants. It can be provided PDF, Excel, and Word as well. So if you have any questions on how to get there or don't know or would like for me to do this again, let me know. But if you can just click on that, this first one will be the main RFP document. And it'll be big, pretty long PDF file here. And it'll have the same title, RFP number, my contact info is in there several times. And then it'll then go to the actual documents of what we're asking for. A lot of good information here. A few things I do want to mention is here, schedule activities is important to note because there are deadlines here for Q&As and for us to return those answers by. There's another info session for folks who is not able to attend. They can attend that too. It's all hyperlinked, so you can register by just clicking over that, allow that up there, and then it'll pop up that Zoom registration there as well. So this is all public information. You can share it to anyone who's interested, either the document or as the pathway as I've shown here as well. Then again, it'll link to VSS if for some reason you found the document not through VSS, it can tell you how to go back to there as well. So it's all linked, takes you back to the same page. Here is where we started. That's the path, and that's what we call Colorado VSS, and that's our system that we use for the submission. And a lot of good information here. I'm not going to go in detail, but I just want to point out a few areas there. And it'll go into detail, the project overview, background, and actually regions as well, because I know that's been a big question of what region, and then how to apply, what limits are there, how many awards. It's all available in this document here. And we have a little map here to kind of help line that up with this list up here. So that's what I wanted to share with folks. I'll give that back to Nikki.
Thanks, Kathy. And you'll notice there are a number of attachments in VSS. Some of those we ask that they're submitted as part of the the RFP packet, and then other documents are there just for your reference.
Has anyone here had a chance to look in the RFP?
Kind of skimmed it over a little bit. Can I just ask like another clarifying question? So like the idea for nonprofits to participate would be to like help spread the message that there's these grants out for small retailers and farms to help with their infrastructure support that's going to like help with food access across the 8 different regions in Colorado, right? Like that would be like is that the main kind of goal for like these technical assistants and outreach contractors?
Yeah, outreach, you definitely touched on. We're also really looking for that support. You know, we know that not everyone has applied for a grant through the state, right? And we are hoping that these contractors can be that bridge between, you know, these state procedures and, you know, like just supporting in that effort. We know that can be kind of foreign, and we know that we'll need to leverage support throughout the state in order for it to happen.
Like even some of the grant writing for their retail hub, like they might need someone to help them write that grant.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know, like, would it be, because it talks about like fresh, healthy, local food. You know, a lot of my work is with grains.
Mhm.
Is it okay if some of these things are geared towards specific foods, or I don't know how that fits in, and maybe that's a question for later if it's not applicable to everybody, but.
That's a really good question. And it is an element of this program that has yet to be really defined in any particular way. And our bill, our legislation talks about healthy food. It doesn't describe exactly what kinds of food mean healthy. And we are working with our grant advisory committee right now to to add a little bit more specificity on that. But you know, at this time, it could mean that anything that the community needs that they don't have access to now.
Okay. Like a mill or something like that. If a real retailer needed to like establish that for like farmer connection, like that might be something that would fit into that, maybe.
I think
Probably
we'll
a bit
have to
beyond.
get back on the mill
Okay.
specifically.
Okay.
You know, this program really is focused on small food retailers and small family farms and small producers are also eligible to receive this grant. But their proposals are really, we're really weighting this work more towards how do those proposals support increased access to food for small food retailers, if that makes sense. So more clarity to come for sure as we work with our advisory committee to develop this process. But yeah, the goal as stated in the bill is to support small food retail.
Cool, thank you.
Sure.
And I just wanted to add, Audrey, regarding the regions of the state, the idea is that the nonprofits and organizations who apply work in a community relationship in one of those regions. They may not currently be in all counties of that region. And there's the hope that the applying nonprofit would actually subcontract with other organizations in that region to do the work. So, you know, if you're in one county and maybe work in a couple of the neighboring, but you don't work in, you know, the one that's on the other side of the region, you have another organization who's supporting to provide that work. And we will award one organization per region unless we don't have a region represented. Then we may ask one of the other regions or other approved organizations to represent 2 regions, you know, just to say, but to kind of explain how that's all working.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Organizations can also apply or submit a proposal for up to 2 regions if they feel strongly that they have connections and representation in more than one region. So.
Okay, and Daisy had a question about specific like elaborating more on technical assistance. What specific support will the nonprofits provide? Mickey, do you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as we were touching on a bit with Audrey, this may be the first time some applicants are applying for a grant at all, right? So, support in navigating what the questions are asking for, how to assess whether or not this grant is a right fit for what the business is looking to buy. Does the ask align with the goals of the grant, right? So navigating that, also supporting with documents that will be required, reporting after the grant is awarded, submitting receipts, things of that nature. If that helps, Daisy.
And then I would add too, in those documents on the VSS system, Mickey designed an example activity tracking sheet. And some of those examples, I think, really exemplifies like the nuts and bolts of the work that will be done, which is going to a gas station convenience store and introducing yourself and like giving information about this program and trying to create that relationship that maybe you as an organization don't have, but you have with the larger community, and doing essentially some cold calling with these small food retailers to say, hey, this is an available program, you know, it awards up to $25,000. Do you have a need within your store? So, you know, just to put it in like a little bit of a nuts and bolts perspective, like a lot of outreach, you know, a lot of that technical assistance will be the outreach, or I should say outreach along with the technical assistance, a lot of the work.
Lots of conversations.
Mm-hmm. Daisy,
What other?
yeah, I just want to make sure that Daisy, that we answered your question enough, or if you had follow-ups to that.
Yes, thank you very much. Could we talk about the regions? I know it's in the TA, in the one of the attachments, but how were those regions chosen and what was the logic?
That's a great question, and definitely one that you know, CDA spent a lot of time thinking about. Essentially, what our goal here was to give opportunities for all of the community and nonprofit organizations that have already been involved with work of similar nature, or sort of in a related space. We really wanted to create opportunities for many nonprofits to be involved with this work, because for those of you who have taken a look at the RFP and are familiar with this program, we're really on a tight timeline to get all of our grant funds encumbered. So the way we divided up the regions was with as much of an eye on distance it takes to drive across a region. That's something that was weighted heavily. Population of a region, high need areas in a region, and oh gosh, help me out, Amanda. I feel like there's one more thing that we were factoring in. Yeah.
Well, so we got the population, we got the distance, we got the critical needs. I feel like you covered everything, Mickey.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, we're aware that these regions, dividing up this state in any way is going to be flawed, right? No division of this state is going to be perfect. And there are opportunities for with subcontracting for possibly an organization that has great connections across multiple regions to subcontract in another region and be the primary contractor in a different one, or be a subcontractor in multiple regions. So there's opportunities there. Even if the way, our program has created these divisions doesn't make a lot of sense for their reach and their service area. So let me know if that helps clarify things, Stacy.
Yes, and one more question on that. So there is 8 regions, and a nonprofit can apply for up to 2. So there will be 4 grantees, right? For
some may only apply for one region. Yeah, so anywhere between 4 and 8.
Okay. Okay, I actually did not read the whole RFP. I've had a hard time getting in, but thanks to the explanation today by Kathy, I was able to get into it. But yeah, those are my questions for now.
That's why we're hosting this session, so that we can all benefit from that walkthrough. And if you have any questions about getting into VSS, this is a great time to ask. So please ask away if you have any other questions about that.
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone, if they haven't tried to get in, to try it now while we're here. And, if you hit a stumbling block, Kathy can walk you through it again. We know that it's a different system than probably most of you are used to working with. So we want to make sure that part is really ironed out. And if you have questions too about filling out the forms, once you're in there, as a PDF and or as a Word document, just let us know. Feel free to ask away about that as well.
Yeah, I recommend everyone who's really interested in submitting a bid, go in and actually play with the system, because I think that's been the biggest struggle. What I'm hearing from interested offers is, how do I submit it? I can't upload this, or I don't know if it went through. You don't want to wait until the last minute, crunch time, because once the system locks it out, there's nothing we can do. I can't undo it. I can't open it after it's closed. So I do recommend at least just going in, playing around with just the system, be familiar with that, and then go back to working on your proposal and then filling out the forms as needed. So at least once you have once you can get in and at least test it out a few things, you can go back and edit. You don't have to submit until you're ready, but I do recommend submitting it during business hours in case you run into any technical difficulties. The VSS help team is available to answer any of the questions you have. It may not be, a quick response if you email, but if you can get them during business hours, you can call the number, and it's all available on that first page that we popped on VSS. And the same thing with me, like I'm only available during business hours. So if you're trying to submit it, at 2, 3 a.m., I'm not going to be available to help. So it's always best to just test that out, play with it, go back and revise it. And then, once you're ready to submit, you have everything, ironed out. That's what I highly recommend. And unfortunately with RFPs, we can't accept bids outside of the system. And that's clearly stated several times on our RFP. There's no workaround with that. So unfortunately, if it's not submitted through, we can't accept the bid, and it would be considered non-responsive. So I do highly recommend people get it done early and submit it early as best as you can. Once it's submitted, you will get an email notification with an SR in front of that email subject. And then if it doesn't pop up on my end right away, you would at least have confirmation that it was successfully submitted, and then we can work with that. So yeah, test it out. Let me know if there's any questions. Contact VSS if it's technical questions, if it's program questions. Still welcome to email that to me or submit that through the RFP system as well. And we can get all of our answers back to you guys by the 7th, which is our deadline as stated in the schedule of activities.
Any other questions about VSS or the content of the RFP or the timeline?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have one more question. I know you explained very well, the TA and support part in the grant program, what will be the role in the consortium? Will be just advice, leading, or what kind of role would a grantee play in the consortium part?
That's a really, really great question. And the consortium is still under development. So our goal with this consortium is to have the structure of it, have the content of it, have the priorities for how the budget is spent be dictated by small food retailers and small family farms. So as we know that, you know, these are really busy business owners, and we know that there's going to be a little bit of, we know that the grant is maybe a little bit more appealing to these business owners, and that we'll need to sort of use the grant to bring them to the table, and collectively they'll be able to decide how they want to prioritize spending that budget. So that's a long way of saying we don't have a firm structure on what the consortium looks like. We do know that we want these small businesses that are eligible for the grant to be involved with this consortium and help fill in some of those gaps that the grant will leave, and really help to strengthen the value chain between small farmers, small food retailers, and everyone else in this food system. So one aspect of being a contractor, and this is spelled out in the RFP, will really be monthly meetings with the CDA team, because we're sort of building this program as we're rolling it out in many ways. So we'll be in very close communication with our contractors, taking feedback from them, because all these contractors will be out in community and they'll be bringing us feedback, which, you know, in this structure, we will be able to take into consideration, which is helpful. So I hope that clarified a little bit about, yeah, what outreach coordinators or outreach contractors will be doing, which is essentially encouraging these businesses to apply for a grant and be involved, and, you know, have this collective voice as part of the consortium.
One more question. Are there any goals of how many stores or retailers we want to go, have per region? Do we have set goals, or that will be also built and each contractor will decide that?
That's a really good question, Daisy. So we have for this this grant program, we'll have a little under 6 million to allocate in the form of one-time grants, up to $25,000. So if every grantee applies for the maximum amount, which is $25,000, we'll have over 200 grantees. So while that seems like maybe a lot in one sense, once it's divided across 8 regions of the state, yeah, it can feel a little bit diluted. So we do have to grant 30% of the funds to rural areas. So that's another consideration as well. But no, we are not, we're not going to give quotas to each contractor for how many retailers they need to engage or apply or have a successful application.
And just to add, Daisy, like what that would look like at the maximum and like evenly distributed across 8 regions, would be 30, you know, per region. That's, you know, just to give you a number to wrap your head around. But that doesn't mean, like Mickey said, that we are going to hold you accountable to hit 30 or 40 or 50. It's, you know, the outreach to the community is going to be so huge. And, you know, we don't have statistics on the percentage that will apply after being, you know, after you develop a relationship with somebody. You know, with that information will glean after this, you know, how many retailers really were interested, how many were interested, but didn't even think that they could apply with even with technical assistance and support, and want to do it like some in the future sometime if there was another opportunity. So just to, you know, keep that in mind, like, you know, we're looking to support as many people as possible. And we're not going to hold you to anything within, you know, your region as a contractor, just getting the word out, giving people the support they need.
And giving contractors the support they need as well. We know that this is an evolving program. We want the contractors to be part of it, and we don't want to send contractors out into the field with uncertainty about what they're promoting or how they're promoting it or what kind of technical assistance to offer. This opportunity is really a way for many stakeholders to be involved in the process here.
Thank you, definitely. And it might take, you know, the first year, maybe just building relationships, not really applying for grants. And I mean, trying to, but it might take to build relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we're really looking for folks with existing relationships in community or nonprofits who can subcontract with smaller organizations that have existing relationships, because to answer Vanessa's question here, we have to have all 6 million, well, more when you count the budget for the consortium. We have to have all the funds encumbered, so obligated. We know where they're going by the end of the calendar year 2024. So it's a pretty rapid timeline here. And we're really hoping that by enlisting the help of all of these nonprofits that do work in community, it will speed up that process compared to government trying to do it alone. Did I answer all the parts of Vanessa's question? What are the expected measures of success at the end of the project, and what is the life cycle of the project? So our measurables are really to increase purchasing capacity of healthy food for small food retailers through this grant and consortium program, and increase distribution capacity for small food producers. Those are our big metrics. Of course, we're also hoping to move the needle on the price point of healthy food in these underserved areas of the state. So Vanessa, hopefully that helps with that question. Did I answer that all right?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
And I just want to add to, just if this isn't clear, you know, when we have all the funds encumbered by the end of 2024, that means, you know, the grantee has applied and been awarded, and maybe they said that they wanted to buy a freezer unit, you know, for their operation. They don't have to have purchased that by the end of 2024. We will say they are, you know, looking to buy this item, and we are, you know, ready to send them money and reimburse them once they purchase it. We know that the money's going to that retailer. We know what they're buying, but they may not have actually laid down the money and we have reimbursed it. So just to, you know, if that helps frame sort of the timeline too, you know, like Mickey said, it's going to be, you know, utilizing your existing relationships, but you will be doing, you know, likely additional outreach to places that you don't have a relationship with. And, you know, there will be some time to build those relationships that aren't existing quite yet. But, you know, we are pushing that piece of like this is a fast process. We didn't ask for this timeline. This is the timeline we were given due to the legislation. So we are, you know, trying to make it as comfortable and easy as possible for everyone, but we also, you know, kind of have to keep moving the cart along the tracks. So
yeah, that's exactly right. We're really caught in the balance here of trying to make this program as equitable as possible and reach places that have never been reached before with funds, and also stick to this ambitious timeline. So that's one of the main motivators for opening up this RFP, so we can bring more support on to help with that. And Audrey, Amanda brought up a great example of how we anticipate a lot of the funds to be used. And this is through stakeholder outreach and listening sessions that we've hosted, but cold storage is brought up over and over as a barrier for small food businesses like the ones we've described in being able to offer healthy food and offer it at a lower price point. So cold storage is an eligible purchase. Display cases, display shelving on sort of the infrastructure side, distribution equipment on the small farm side, in getting their product to a retail environment. Also available or eligible for the grant that the farmers and retailers would be applying for would be point of sale systems that are compatible with SNAP and or WIC, accounting support, book management, those sorts of things. Operating expenses are listed as well. So yeah, that can mean a number of things. So more clarity there as we work with our advisory committee. And our goal timeline is to have that committee iron out some of the details of these areas that are a little gray, and have those grant guidelines around the time when contractors would be finalizing their contract and starting the work. So let me read Vanessa's question. What happens if you have more than one nonprofit respond to the RFP? So Vanessa, yeah, this is a competitive bidding process. So there will be an evaluation committee that will take all of the nonprofit organizations that have submitted a proposal, and we will score them and evaluate the proposal that is the most successful, that seems to be the most successful to complete the work.
And
we label it as most advantageous.
Yes, yeah. What Kathy said.
Thanks, Mickey. Just one more follow-up question. So I forgot my question because I was derailed by my other question. Hold on.
I will just add, as you're thinking, Vanessa, we mentioned it earlier, but I'll just keep saying it, that, having subcontractors, within these regions is going to be a big piece. And so, if we see that multiple nonprofits have applied in a region, and, the one that scores the highest after review, maybe isn't including some of those other organizations as subcontractors, we might suggest that they work together. We we outline that in some language, and Kathy, jump in if I'm like not doing the language justice. But you know, we want, you know, we want this to be obviously as effective as possible. And so if there's like multiple or 2 or 3 great organizations who submit a proposal, and we can, you know, get them working together, we will do that if we think that's effective.
Awesome, thanks. That was actually
Yeah.
my question, so I appreciate that. You're looking to have at least one nonprofit that serves all parts of the region. So if a region is made up of multiple counties, you want to make sure there's somebody that's working with each of those counties within the region.
And you know, we don't really need to think about it in county terms either. If we know that there's lots of nonprofits that define their scope in a lot of different ways, and there might be some nonprofits that really have strong connections with one particular cultural group, and we see that as a really effective way to make sure that we're reaching all of the communities that could benefit from this program. So that's where we see an opportunity for perhaps one main contractor, you know, to be the main point of contact between CDA and all of the subcontractors who might have better connections, better skills connecting with small food retailers that represent different cultural groups in a region.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the cultural groups that you're hoping to see?
So we're really hoping, we're not really defining priority groups besides low income and underserved areas of the state. And that's one beautiful part about working in collaboration with community and community groups is they're able to tell us this is a really low access and underserved area of our region, and this is a priority. But you know, historically, we know that minority groups have not been the recipients of federal grant programs and state grant programs. We'd like to see this program, you know, help undo a bit of that injustice from in the past.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's see if I go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to put out a question actually to Kathy, because I thought about this as we were talking and I haven't asked it before, but can a nonprofit submit to be a main contractor and also write a letter of support for another contractor? Would that be allowed? You're on mute, Kathy.
Can you repeat that question again? Because I'm trying to wrap my head around that question of how the relationship is intertwined.
Yeah, so if, say, I'm applying in, you know, the Southeast region as the main contractor, but I maybe have done work in one of the communities outside of that region, and another nonprofit asks if we would partner as a subcontractor in that other region, would that be allowed?
I don't think we restrict that in the RFP, but we can certainly consider that. But overall, you know, we do state that we want to cover, we have a goal, you know, that we want to cover as many regions as much as possible, but give, you know, kind of a spread across of all of our interested offers too. So we could certainly consider that. I don't think it is stated that we don't allow it, but, you know, we can certainly entertain that possibility as well, because sometimes that may work out for us, or there's, you know, too many interested offers that we don't even go that route because there's too many applicants for a certain region. So yes, we will consider that.
Great. I just wanted that to
I
be
do want to
clear.
point that there shouldn't, that if that is the case, I would like that to be provided in part of your proposal, if that's going to be the nature of the relationship or the partnership, so that we have full transparency if there's any conflict of interest. Because in our procurement process, we don't want vendors to be kind of working with each other to kind of win the bid together, and like kind of that defeats the whole part of having a competitive process. We do want to have that transparency and have that documented, and that we can certainly vet for any kind of conflict of interest with that process before award too. So just FYI, there's a little bit more review for us to do that if that's the case. Any other questions for the group, for Amanda, or Nikki? All right, if not, then my question really is to Nikki and Amanda. I know this is being recorded, and I guess folks are going to be wondering, when is it going to be available, when is it going to be shared, and where can we find it?
So the RFP is open now on Colorado Vendor Self-Service. We will host another information session similar to this one. So you're welcome to come back or, join this for the first time if you're watching this recording. That will be May 10th. We have our schedule of activities posted on our website, which I can drop a link to in the chat. And the date of our deadline for submission will be June 14th at 12 noon. Any other important things to add there, Amanda? Thank you everyone for all your great questions. And yeah, you can see there's a lot of potential for this program to have a lot of impact, and we're really excited to be hopefully collaborating with a lot of excellent contractors through this RFP. So
Thank you.
All right, thank you everyone. Have a good day. Bye.